Welcome to the recap of round number 11. Guys, it's April 11th and today there was a big bang on this board. This was the position here and Vaishali was playing with the black pieces. And you know what Goryachkina played here? Rook f5. She had a very nice centrally placed rook, but lovely little move g6. And you know there's some interesting ideas happening that the rook is getting trapped and out of nowhere. And this was a big blow white took here. Maybe c4 was directly better. Vaishali also took. Very happy for such a pawn structure to become better. c4 was played. King went f8, covering this e8 square. You will see how in the future. Takes, and at this moment was a big blunder. Bishop c4, you know. This bishop, she would have assumed that okay, takes should be good enough, but the bishop went back and what a move. It's already over here because the rook is getting trapped. You cannot stop it. This happened, but after this came b6 and then Vaishali won material and won the game and is the sole leader. She's on 7 points, followed by Zhu Jinner on 6 points, whose game ended in a draw against Divya Deshmukh, and followed by Anna Muzichuk also, who is on 6 points. Their game ended draw. Bibisara versus Tan Zongi ended in a draw. Anna versus Katerina Lano ended in a draw. So this is the situation for women's candidates today. This guy who has been an absolute phenomenon over here, you know, Caruana playing with the white pieces, tried to put maximum pressure on Sindarov. You know, I would say that nobody has put as much pressure on Sindarov in this tournament. Sindarov actually came down low on time. Caruana went into this endgame, which looked equal initially, but there was so much pressure. He played absolutely well, attacked the e5 pawn, then attacked the bishop over here, then took this pawn over here, and for rook b8, he gave a check, king went over here, and then he went rook e7, I guess, and later he played g4 and Sindarov played h5, and you know, all sorts of things happened. Sindarov came down to 6 minutes on the clock on 40th move. I think it's the first game in this tournament where he had to use so much time, and he did mention later that he put on the best defense in the tournament. So that's all the pressure Fabi tried to put, but Sindarov, being in the form, defended well and the game ended in a draw, and Sindarov leads at 8.5 points, followed by Anish Giri on 6.5. I want to take you to the game of Anish Giri versus Esipenko for a moment over here. As you can see, Anish was, you know, having this light edge, trying to put good pressure on black, and in this position, knight c6 was played, and a good move for Anish would be to go f4 directly, but then it meant that he had to calculate an endgame like this and had to assess, yes, there is slight edge, but how much it would be, still not very sure. Still, practically, this could have been a better chance. Anish took the bishop, f takes c6, and then he did play f4, but the game eventually ended in a draw. This still would be a good chance for Anish, the kind of position he had got. He would not be very happy with himself, but he is on position number 2 with 6.5 points. And then we have the game Prague versus, you can see blue Balmer over here. Prague was clearly winning. I mean, over here he was clearly winning, but it was time pressure. He had to find a move. Rook takes f7. Of course, you cannot take rook e5 because there was queen a7 and there was all the mating ideas, though lot of calculation had to be done. King moves here, maybe rook here with staircase, mating ideas. Queen will come here if the rook goes back, again mating ideas. So this was completely winning, and rook takes f7 was missed by Prague over here. In fact, he played maybe the rook f7, d4, queen f3. That was also another calculation, but what he played was queen f3 directly. Looking at it, you cannot take because there's going to be a mate, but then came the move d4 and a backward defense for the pawn. So all of a sudden, and Prague did not get much. Eventually, in a few moves, and the game ended in a perpetual. So that was a draw. So in the open section, actually, there was no result. Nakamura versus Wei, that game also ended in a draw. And then we had, yeah, I think Anish versus Esipenko ended in a draw. I have covered everything. This is the most happening phase of the candidates, guys. Last 3 rounds remain. Vaishali leads the women's section, and Sindarov, of course, will be leading the men's section. So let's see what happens. See you tomorrow.